Now, meanwhile, Donald Trump is facing another difficult day with the publication of the book of John Bolton, his former national security advisor, of course. Now, Bolton has said that Trump is incompetent and he won't vote for him. Right as Trump's poll ratings continue to slump amid ongoing angry debates in the US over coronavirus and also, of course, Black Lives Matter. That right as well as in the last few hours. There have been some new tense demonstrations outside the White House. The protesters there tried to topple a statue, in fact. Very tense scenes with the police as well. Well, joining me now is Professor and Chair of the Department of International Comparative Politics at the American University of Paris, also author of the book World War Trump, Hal Gardner. Thanks for being with us on the programme. I mean, Trump certainly continuing to polarise the US. As I said, we saw those demonstrations there last night, once again outside the White House amid that coronavirus epidemic and the Black Lives Matter protests.
Yes, Trump is in big trouble. He knows it. He's going to try to fight back, however. The Bolton revelations are not really revelations, but they really show an incompetent president. And the fact that I think what is really damaging is the Bolton statement that Trump does only what he considers good for his own re-election prospects. It doesn't matter whether it's a good policy for the United States. What matters is whether it'll help Trump get re-elected. So these two devastating revelations, so to speak, but everybody knew them, anybody who's followed the politics since Trump came to office, are devastating because they're coming from a person who served Trump. Now, ironically, Bolton was not Trump's first choice. And in fact, Bolton would not, if Trump had stuck to his principles, he would have never hired Bolton in the first place, because Bolton was conceived as a neoconservative, a militarist, a man who supported the Iraq War and who still wants to engage in war with Iran. And these are actually policies that Trump had criticized before becoming president.
The problem, though, with this book is that, I mean, the book's received quite a few negative reviews, hasn't it? It's been said that it's a very tough read. Bolton himself, not exactly loved by many people. And, of course, let's be honest, a lot of people perhaps seeing him as somebody who was removed by Trump, so perhaps some sour grapes in there.
Well, I believe that's the case to a certain extent. But as I said, Trump initially dismissed him because he had a mustache, according to the press. But the real reason is he's a hardcore neoconservative. He is in the camp of the really right-wing Republicans who want to, as I said, engage in war with Iran at the moment. And he is really not. They're really two sides of the same coin. Trump is probably the most narcissistic, self-centered president we've had at least since the end of World War II. Well, Bolton is the most self-righteous, one of the most self-righteous politicians or political advisors that we've had in quite a while. And neither one of them are good for the country, because the policies both of them advocate will be disasters. We'll either be in war with Iran if Bolton's way goes under the next president, and we'll be in a disaster if Trump continues as re-election.
We've still got quite a few months to go before that election, though. As you say, Donald Trump's gone down in the polls. He's still got plenty of time to turn it around, though, hasn't he? I mean, he's still got a real massive support behind him.
Well, that's correct. And what he's going to do is play two cards. One is he's going to make Joe Biden look weak on China on the international front and blame China for the pandemic. And two, domestically, he's going to point at so-called bad guys, Antifa, the anti-fascist movement, the bad guys that are behind the riots. He says he's in support of the nonviolent protesters, but he wants to show that there are bad guys behind these protests that are knocking down the statues, etc. And the figures seem to appear in his favor. For example, those who think bad guys are behind these riots include 43% of black adults, 62% of white adults, 58% of Hispanics, and 55% of Asian adults, according to a Pew opinion poll, which is fairly reputable. So he's going to play on this fear card, the fear of China, fear of Iran, fear of pandemic, and blaming that on China, as I said, not on his own administration and its incompetence. And then most importantly, the domestic aspect, blame the bad guys that are behind all these riots, and that way he hopes to gain the support of people in the middle of the road, the so-called silent majority, who haven't really decided whether or not they're going to go with Trump or Biden.
Gardner from the American University in Paris, thanks very much for being with us on the programme.